Hey, Chiro Mafia. So I'm just hanging out in the canoe. Whoa, trying not to move in
Yeah.
Venice here. Hey, man, quit paddling. Stop. Okay, here we go. Well,
That is awesome.
as long as that tsunami doesn't come through, I think we're gonna be okay. And there you are, man, with all your captains and people like Dr. Joe. Tell us where to go, Dr. Joe.
Yeah.
What do we have to do now? How high do I jump, Dr. Joe?
All these guys are Italian, by the way, behind me. They're all Italian. So
We
yeah, we
got
know we got a Boreal boot
Ignacio
camp
and
coming up in Fort Lauderdale.
Antonio and Francesco, right?
Yeah, how you doing? Hey, don't say Vinny. Everyone's gonna come to salute right now. So you gotta watch
Yeah,
it.
right. And they're just
Yeah.
like salivating because you got the buffet. It's out of the screen, but
Exactly.
that's what they
Yeah,
get
we're
after
getting
the
we're
push-ups.
getting ready. I got my extreme I'm sure you read this already, or maybe you're familiar with it.
Nah.
So Jocko, which is extreme ownership, Navy SEAL. So I'm looking, yeah, we're getting through that. Get ready for our boot camp in Fort Lauderdale Friday all day. I know you do some boot camps throughout the year,
Yeah.
so they're life changing. So we're real excited about it. It's going to be Friday at the Marina Hilton, which is probably the nicest venue we've ever done it. So we're excited. So
Awesome. So you moved
yeah,
up to 3-star.
yeah, we're up to 3-star. You know, they take Diners Club and Panera cards for
Awesome.
discount.
Yeah.
AAA, yeah.
You get the
Hey,
free
there's
cold.
very few people tighter with a dollar than fucking chiropractors,
There
man.
you go,
Let's
man.
be
You get
honest.
you get like the free cold hard-boiled eggs, like in the little bowl in the morning.
Yeah.
No, this is 3-star, man. They peel the shells off first. You're actually shelled
That's
cold
funny.
hard-boiled eggs.
There's some truth to that. There is truth to
Yeah,
that.
you pay extra to take off the
That
shells.
is very true that you say that.
Yeah. So anyway, on that note, we want to talk about probably the most important thing in chiropractic. And that is when you look at really convicted leaders, people that are have big practices, is they have a purpose bigger than themselves. And what is it? Spirituality is the foundation. I mean, you look at chiropractic principle, it's a universal law, right? We are life force energy, man. Life force energy has to bathe this physical material. We are an electromagnetic force.
Yes.
We are energy. You're not a person, you're an energy. You're walking in a person. You're walking in this meat suit, and this meat suit will freaking degenerate if it doesn't have energy, because the
Yeah.
principle boiled down to 3 words is health is energy.
Right.
Life is energy.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to communicate to your patients.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and what's the big idea, right? BJ talks about in bigness of the fellow within, slip on the ice, small thing, subluxation, small thing, pinch the nerve to an organ, small thing, right? Do an adjustment, small thing, and open the energy, small thing, the organ healing, small thing. Connecting a person back into a higher consciousness, connecting their God self, their spirit self with the physical man, shifts the vibration, shifts the consciousness of humanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You
that's
know
why I
what?
used to look at an adjustment. When I make an
Right.
adjustment, I would see and feel the consciousness of humanity taking a step up.
Yeah. Sid talked about that, like the pillars in practice, and today's one of those pillars, because we talk about business, we talk about communication, right? We talk about running a practice. You and I were talking about some other groups out there, they're really big into numbers, and so there's all these different pillars, but I think a major pillar is that spiritual connection, like you're saying, like, what is your mission? What is your purpose? And not only what is your mission, what is your purpose? Where does it come from, right? What are you trying to achieve? What's your point on earth? What my attitude is always, what's your objective when you walk into the room? If my objective is to get rid of back pain, it doesn't make you wrong, but I think you're missing out on so much potential, right? If it is to get rid of an organic or visceral symptom, that's one. If it's to keep them healthy, that's another one. But D.D. Palmer talked about the unitol, God within man, right? So the energy, the intelligence is expressing itself through matter. So in the end, if that's your vision, if that's your mission, if you're trying to do that in the office, who needs care? Everybody. When does it stop? Never. What's the benefit of care? Making you a more normal human being, living a spiritual existence, allowing, like you're saying, more energy to express itself in the body. So in the end, if that's your objective when you walk into the room, Everybody needs care. Every child needs care. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how young you are. I don't care if you're a male or female. I don't care if you're an athlete. I don't care if you're a plumber. It doesn't matter. Everybody needs care because everybody needs to live spiritual existence, which is the highest conscious experience. And that's really what we're meant to live here anyway. So,
Well, and it says if you want to be in the Bible, if you want to be leader over many, you got to be faithful with one. And that's what I looked.
right.
I looked at it
Yeah.
like, if God is sending me His children.
Yeah.
Now, when I heard the principle, immediately, this is a message for humanity. And if we're coming into this life, we can change the healthcare system around the world. Now, other people may think, well, that's dumb. How can you do that? Well, that's why we create leaders, not patients. One of the mantras in Elite, you got to create someone that's going to go out and
Right.
know someone, that
Right.
may help you write a book,
Right.
may get you on
Right.
TV,
Yeah.
may have a connection with someone else.
Yes. Yes.
Let God do the work. So
Yes.
when you're connected, universal intelligence, innate intelligence,
Yes.
universal intelligence, that's God, innate intelligence, we're created in likeness and image. We're the same. And you take that principle, then you say, I work for God. Now,
Yeah.
there's spiritual people or religious people think, well, I'm working for God. Well, if you're building a practice and you're not serving humanity, you're not talking to a patient like you're changing humanity. Because when you have that intention, they're another innate being. If you're trying to close a patient, they can sense that. If you're speaking about a spiritual truth, they feel it in their soul. They feel
Yes.
it as truth.
Yeah.
And then they get past their mind. They may not understand it in their frontal lobe. And that's where we teach you how to change belief systems and how to talk to people and blah, blah, blah. But they feel the truth. They feel connected. They feel a piece in you that they want a part of.
Yes.
And part of that has nothing to do with what you say. It's who you are when you're saying it, because you believe in the spiritual principle. You believe they're another innate being and God sent them to you. And that's a child that is subluxated. And if they walk out subluxated, they may not be able to fulfill their God-given purpose in this life.
Yes.
That's why they showed up. They may
Right.
think they showed up because of back pain, headaches, or neck pain. They showed up because there's a reason that physical body is here. That innate being is in that physical body. They have a purpose to fulfill, and they're there for chiropractic lifestyle, or they're going to be subluxated.
Yeah. And you'll feel more compelled if you're feeling that you're there for them, that you're there for that bigger purpose, that bigger mission, that bigger reason, right? So when they walk in, again, am I there to reconnect them so their back feels better, so they heal better, or am I there to connect them so that they're living that existence? We talk about belief, but I think the masters, there's a knowing, there isn't a belief. And I get that we're leading people to that because they're hit by values and beliefs, but when there's a knowing, like there's a 2 + 2 is 4, like I'm not in there looking for belief. I'm not in there I hear people say, well, my belief is challenged. Again, I'm not certainly judging anyone, but there isn't that in my head. There is this that exists beyond, and anything that happens is an expression of that. And therefore my day-to-day walk through the world, my day-to-day existence here on the earth is a reflection of that higher calling, that higher power. I mean, that's it. So when you think that way and then people come in, I don't care where they are. You don't have to tell them. You don't have to, like you were saying, Fred, you don't have to tell them. You're not trying to sell them. You're just being who you are, but you're coming from a place of such high vibration and such a place of true authenticity that there's no ulterior motive. And people will, like you said, they read it, they sense it, and they're like, yeah, this is the right place for me. I want to be here. I feel better. My family's better. I'm healthier. I'm a better dad. I'm a better mom. I'm a better leader at work. My life is better. The quality of my life is better because I get care here and you take care of me and you nurture me. So that
Absolutely.
ultimately is what happens.
Well, and I want to tell my personal story real quick, and I'll have you share yours because I got into chiropractic because I knew I was led by God, right? Now, some
Yeah.
people, well, they had a trauma and they think they found chiropractic, right? But you chose it. And I want to share with you Psalm 139:16 says, "You saw my days before they were formed," right? Before the book was written. So, what's that mean? So, I teach this in the Healed seminars. You know, we take people through spiritual breakthroughs to find their soul purpose. So, imagine that before you came here into this physical body, you're in the spirit world and you're sitting there with God, you're sitting there in this whole other spiritual dimension, and metaphorically you're watching a movie trailer of what your life's going to be, and you're going to say, put me in, coach. Right now, here's the deal: your soul, your personality would never choose what your soul chose. So once you understand that, then you
Right.
understand, well, I was raped or I was sexually abused. Why would I choose that? No, your soul wouldn't choose what your personality wouldn't choose what your soul chose. So now you're a chiropractor. Now you own your own business, right? There's the challenge. You know, chiropractic's actually accepted now, man. When we came out of school, you know, it was just starting to be accepted, right? And the
Yes.
guys before us, they paved the road that we drive on.
Yes.
And so imagine you come in knowing the things that happen in your life of how you got into chiropractic was already determined.
Right.
Now you could say, well, I don't believe that. Okay, well, what if you did believe it? What if you did believe that you came in for this reason? Now you have a soul purpose and your conviction, your obsession, how you communicate, what you do, how you learn, how you persist, how you get through the hard times become, you gain way more stamina.
Yeah. Becomes more
So,
valuable. Everything's becomes more important for sure.
oh, exactly, man. So I remember being 7 years old. I was in Philly. I was playing in the front yard of my grandmother's house. And my grandfather, I remember he was 73, sitting in his guinea tea. You know, he had to get up early because he worked in a bakery. So he's just sitting outside, summer day, windows open behind him, grandmother yelling out Italian through him with all the orders of what to do. And he's just like, can I just shut my eyes? And I remember looking at him in the front yard, you know, I'm all full of grass and whatever. And I was thinking, I wonder what's going through his mind. I remember he was 73. I was 7 years old. And I'm like, I wonder what's going to be going through my mind when I'm sitting in that chair in my 70s. And I said to myself, when I'm that age, I want the world to be different. And then I remember like this moment, this divine moment, like I'm a 7-year-old kid. Who the hell thinks of that, right? Because your spirit's coming through you, your purpose is already inside you.
Yeah.
Your heart chakra, it's already embedded in your heart. You don't have to know. I had no idea. But it doesn't help. You know, of course, I was raised by an RN and I hated taking drugs, right? Because those things are innately in you. So, and then you go run off and play and you don't think about it. And so now I'm in undergraduate college, right? I'm working a physical therapist office, pre-med student. I'm like, fuck, I hate drugs. I don't want to do this. Besides, if I put a scalpel in my hand, like I'm like you, Joe. If you say run over and hit that dude as hard as you can, like gross motor movements, like fine motor movement. No, I'm gonna break shit,
Yeah.
man. I'm better at
Yeah.
breaking than building.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I can build, but gross motor movements, that's my specialty.
Yeah.
Wrestling, oh yeah. So anyway, I get a pamphlet from chiropractic. I'm praying. What am I gonna do? Get a pamphlet from chiropractic school. Chiropractors are stupid. And then I get another pamphlet. They're dumb. They don't know shit. I didn't even know what a chiropractor was. And then I get a third pamphlet, and I'm like, man, if I'm praying for something and I get 3 signs, God's telling me to be a chiropractor. So I call my dad. Dad, I'm going to chiropractic school.
Huh.
I go to my interview at chiropractic school. I'm like, I have no idea what chiropractic is, but I know I'm going to do something great. And that was on total faith. And then I had to learn chiropractic, but when I found the principle, you mean I can move the bone and God can heal you. Everything can be healed. I'm going to be the best at fucking moving the bone. There's not a fucking bone anybody's going to walk in here with that I can't move, because God's going to heal them. And that was it, man. We started, we got our adjusting down, man. I mean, I remember going to LACC, I was tutoring people getting out of clinic on how to adjust. Because, of course, we were machines. The first day of school, I need a tutor. Show me how to adjust. Well, you can't adjust till fourth term. Yeah, sure. So anyway, but that's what drove me, man. I remember there was many times, you're getting in line at the swap meet doing a screening or whatever. This was years ago. And I'm like, it's 5 a.m. Oh my God, why am I doing this again? And I remember being 7, saying the world's going to be different because I lived. And I'm like, okay, what do we have to do?
Yeah. My dad used to say, we borrowed Gary's chainsaw and my neighbor, and I was probably, I don't know, maybe 12. And we got the chainsaw, didn't have any bar oil in it. The chain was dull, it was dirty, there was no fuel in it. He didn't give us any fuel. And I remember my dad, cleaned it up, sharpened the blade, got bar oil, filled it up with fuel. We used it for a couple of days. And then he cleaned it all up again, sharpened the blade, loaded up the bar oil, filled it up with fuel. And he bought a little, like, 1-gallon gas can, mixed it with the 50-to-1, oil, and gave it back to Gary. And I remember telling my dad, like, Dad, why are you doing that? Like, you took the chainsaw from him, it was dull, and didn't have gas, and it didn't have bar oil in it or anything. And he said, Joe, let me tell you something. Always leave it better when you found it. It's how I live my life. Like, always leave it better than you found it. So he gave me that, not just a gesture of kindness or gratitude, but leave it better than you found it. Yeah, and if you just live your world that way. So that was something I always carried with me. Like, always leave things better than you found it, no matter what it was, whether it was borrowing a chainsaw or a practice member walking in or one of your staff or your day, starting your day, leaving your day better than you found it, at least trying to. That was a huge part of it. I'll tell you where it really hit me the most in practice was, I would say, my first moment where I had like a spiritual experience. And it was Sarah Bourne, who I still take care of today, or still comes to the practice today. And she was getting off the table, and I didn't finish adjusting her yet. And I was probably like, I don't even know. Like, I don't even remember what I did. I think I did a thoracic adjustment on her and had her turn to her side. And you could just see like her whole demeanor would change. Like, when I get adjusted, oh man, that's great. I'm a happy cat, And she just got up without me even like doing hardly anything. And she got up. I gave her a thoracic thrust. I'm trying to remember, but I remember her getting up and like, oh man, that was great. And her whole demeanor changed. She was just happy and thrilled and satisfied. And I remember part of me was going to go, wait, I didn't finish. Like, and then the other part of me is like, no, she got what she needed in that moment. There was a transference of something. I didn't even need to touch her. You know what I mean? And then it was just kind of that awareness, because I was very tangible at that point, where like, there's something else going on here, that, especially because we started getting a lot busier, there's something more going on here than I have any idea. And rather than trying to own it or figure it out, I kind of just released the fact that, hey, wait, there's so much something bigger happening that I'm just going to ride with it. And then obviously the more that happened and the more I rode with it and the more I accepted that, the more what you always call, Fred, like the healing would happen. And like, it wasn't and I'm not knocking the benefit of taking care of somebody's backache or neck ache or whatever, because that could be debilitating, life-changing. But the fact that you could see people like healing, like at a different level. And the Bazin brothers out there in New Hampshire, they talked a lot about that, Bill and his brother and sister. And they really talked a lot about that whole spiritual transformation that happens when you're vibrating at a certain frequency. And that's what you could see at our busiest times in our practice. Like, a lot of people probably never even got so-called their full adjustment, because they'd come in and you touch them or just be in their presence, and all of a sudden, boom, they're like, hey, that was great, doc, high five. power's on, body's healing, bing, bing, and they're gone. And that's what started to happen. That was really my first moment of awareness of something bigger going on as a healer, as an adjuster. What was really happening that I read about, but I hadn't experienced until I got to that point. So,
Well, and you know this too. When you get to high volume people, first of all, high volume docs are very spiritual. That's how they
yeah,
get there.
yeah,
They always talk about God. Like I
yeah,
had templated in my adjust room, I move the bone, God does the healing. So when
yeah,
people would say, so we never take blame and we never take credit. Doug Fred, you're amazing. I'm like, look, you're making your appointments. I just come here, I make the adjustment, I may fix your spine, but God does the healing. This is why your diabetes is better. And then when you believe a subluxated spine is life or death, they're making a life or death decision.
yes, yes,
Doesn't mean they're going to die tomorrow, but the worst death
yes,
is suffering through
yes,
85 years
yes,
subluxated, right? I'd rather shoot me now if I can never get adjusted again. I'd rather,
yes,
stick a freaking gun in my
yes,
mouth.
yes,
So at some point, when you believe it's life or death, then you start attracting life or death people. I mean,
yes,
of all the thousands of patients that we take care of, some you have to remember, and then there's 5 I can't forget. And those
yeah,
were life or death people. A couple of those where the doctor sent them home from the hospital and said, you're going to be dead by Monday. And they came in, got x-rayed, and they lived.
yeah,
X-rayed, I adjusted them and they lived. They were going to die in 2 days and they looked like they were going to die. And those stories, man, those impact you. Like I say, and then, there was another guy and then you hear about the people, they come in, they didn't get it. Maybe we didn't know how to communicate then. And then you find out they died. Then you find out 6 months, a year later, a year and a half, they had a heart attack or now they have cancer. And I
right,
would say this, you have the advantage, like the Scrooge, the ghosts of Christmas past.
yes,
Imagine if you had to see every patient that quit and what is their health situation now, because maybe you weren't committed enough.
yes,
Maybe you weren't convicted enough. Maybe you just took care of their back pain, or maybe you just did the best you could, but you need to you need to upgrade your communication skills.
yes,
Because if you had to look at the ghosts of patients past, you would be haunted.
yeah. There's
So
two
we have
prayer
the
cards
what's
that
that?
I had them in my wallet. I remember talking to them about it at Paul Reed's. I think it was the first time I ever shared that with anyone, but out in Washington. But I have them in my journal now because they're pretty delicate. But one of them is Vilma Aboff, her name was, and the other guy's name was Frank Scuderi. And you said that when you understand that what you do is life or death, or the subluxation is life or death, or the correction of it is life or death, those were times that I didn't get that. And they were people who would come into my office. I took care of them, didn't have the courage, didn't have the conviction, didn't have the message, the communication, the experience, didn't have that why. And I definitely was far short of where I needed to be. And they both passed away within a year of seeing me. And one of them was I took care of Frank's brother, but I remember going, wow, like, man, if he only stuck with care, if he gave it more time, if he gave his body ability to heal, and those were monumental moments for me. Those were those people always ask, like, what was the moment? There wasn't one, right? There was 100 moments, but that was one of those moments where Frank passed, and then Vilma passed a month after, and I'm like, I suck. Like, what the fuck? What am I afraid of? What am I scared of? Why don't I talk to people? Why don't I share it more? What would have happened? They could have dropped anyway, but at the very best, if I went for it, they would have stayed under care longer. If I communicated better, if I was better at what I did, if I wasn't either insecure or afraid of being rejected or what, all those thoughts I'm sure were going through my head at that time. And yeah, I remember saying, I'm never going to let that happen again. And it's the best that I could do it. And then every passing year, your conviction just gets better and you just refuse to, you know what? If you're going to leave my office, I'm going to be able to put my head on the pillow going, I did every fucking, short of going to your house and putting you in a straitjacket and dragging you on my adjusting table, I've pretty much done everything I could have done, you know? And
Well,
then
now
your goal is to
why?
get better at it.
And you look at those experiences, because I've had experiences like that. We could go on with so many stories.
Yeah.
Why would you say, what if I would have done this? What if I would have done that? And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening that have done that. But where does that conviction come from? It comes
Yeah.
from, you're working for God.
Yeah.
Like without that spiritual conviction,
Yeah.
why does somebody have a 40 PBA and just because they make a great life for their family that they're satisfied? Why are you satisfied?
Right.
40 PBA means if they're under corrective care, you have to build a new practice every 3 months.
Right.
Where do those
Exactly.
people end up? They
Yeah.
came 40 visits.
Yeah.
What's your PBA? So that's
Yeah.
the thing is, where does that conviction come from? It comes from God. If I want God to send me 100, then I have to be faithful with one.
Right. Exactly.
And that's
Yeah.
what got me to say, you know what, patient education isn't working, man. And started studying human behavior and learning that, wow, I'm changing their belief system. I want to take them into knowing chiropractic is their primary health care and that the foundation of every health condition is an energy problem.
Yes.
That's the
Exactly.
foundation of every health condition is energy. You got to have
Exactly.
energy for it. Now there, the functional medicine people. Well, there's chemistry and I get it, man. But if you don't, you could have a clean body and no energy, and you're still dead. How are those
Right.
toxins affecting the dead person with no energy?
Exactly. Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
why we call it the foundation. So,
Yeah.
and now people that would come to me and go, Dr. Fred, you know why I come to you? And I'm like, because I'm the coolest guy you ever met in your life, jokingly. And they would go, they literally go, no, that's not it at all. And they would say, because you talk about God.
Yeah.
People would come to me for that reason.
Yeah.
And the
Exactly.
introduction to the workshop was, I believe God put us on this earth with a great purpose. And I don't think sickness, disease, or injury should be any part of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's the mission. Now, with that, how can you not get families?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So,
We use a conversation. I always say, what are these? Your teeth. And I say, how long are they supposed to last for? And people go, a lifetime. I go, only if you take care of them. I go, so here's the reality. It wasn't like God got your teeth right, but couldn't figure out your gallbladder or your pancreas or your back, right? I mean, how long are those organs supposed to last for? The rest of my life. Exactly. Obviously, only if you what? So God wasn't sitting there with Archangel Michael going, geez, guys, I can't figure it out. Like I got the teeth figured out, but Jesus said appendix keeps quitting at 28 and the gallbladder keeps going at 32. Like, that isn't what's going on, So obviously he designed it to last a lifetime, but obviously, it's up for us. And then obviously taking care of it. And then you connect that energy and that intelligence, that expression of signals and messages through the nervous system to the body. And then obviously it's interfered with subluxation. So, people already get it. I mean, really, the word subluxation itself is spiritual, right? Lux is enlightenment, divinity, expresses itself through the spine. When it's crooked, the presence is less than it should be, right? So you have less divinity expressed in your body when you're subluxated. So I get it that it doesn't fit in your ICD code, and I got all that. I mean, I understand, you can look at it from the outside and look at a chiropractor who talks like that and then says, well, what's that got to do with the backache or, ligamentum flavum and, facet joints and nerve roots. And I got all that, but where does it all come from and what goes through it anyway? And like I was saying, we don't work on dead people for a reason because there's no life, there's no energy, there's no intelligence in them. So we got to connect ourselves. Is there matter? Is there a materialistic aspect? Of course there is, 100%. But the only reason I'm adjusting the living person and not going to the morgue and adjusting corpses is because there's energy and life and intelligence and vitality within the living system. And in the end, that's really what you're looking at. Even though you can get hung up on the practical aspect of pushing on the vertebrae, the reason you're pushing on it is because there's something that's impeded when it gets stuck or crooked. And that's something that's getting impeded. In the end, that's really what we're working with. So even if you're a backache doc, mean, their backache doesn't heal unless there's vital force in there. So, you know, I think we call ourselves short or come up short when we don't embrace all the pillars. There's all those pillars that we need to embrace. So this
Well,
topic Fred picked today, that's why it's so critical.
well, and then the other thing is, the principle is universal law. That's
Right,
God.
right.
Like people, where's your confidence in God? And that's the spiritual foundation. So when people would come in, I know if I move the bone, God does healing. That's not my responsibility. My responsibility is I will move the bone. I will know how to change the curves. We will optimize the spinal cord and nervous system, and God will do the healing. If your body created a disease, your body can heal it. All we got to
Yes.
do is give it the right thing. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what the name of the disease is.
Yes.
And I had
Correct.
people, and I'm sure you have, Joe, that when you believe that, and then I had people with cancers and, where their tumors would go away. I mean, I don't remember tumors not going away. It's not like I had a big oncology practice, but I remember AIDS people coming in way back when, Kaposi sarcoma, and watching these things flake off. It's like, can you sweep that in the garbage can? Just try not to
Yeah.
get that on
Yeah.
the carpet.
Yeah.
But and watching their T cells change and watching other people's tumors, even cysts. I mean, how many ovarian cysts and uterine cysts and even spinal cysts that were benign, and you're adjusting them and fixing their spine, and those cysts just literally melt away, and they're I can't believe it, they're just gone.
Yeah.
But of course, man, if your body created it, your body can heal it, and we never doubted it a freaking a
Yeah.
nanometer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I move the
Yeah.
bone, God's going to do the healing. Whatever you have, it's going to be gone. And
Yeah.
you
Well, this,
expected it.
right. Disease. I mean, it's how do you look at disease? Virgil Strange, former president of Palmer, that's what we talked about. Like a disease is your body is re-manifesting it, or the absence of the intelligence, if you will, allows it to re-manifest it. So disease in and of itself isn't an entity. Disease is if you will, the existence or the happening that occurs when there isn't intelligence or expression, when there isn't organization that's occurring, right? You turn on the organization, you turn on the vital force, you say, hey, to this molecule, hey, you're supposed to be here, and to this protein, you're supposed to be doing that. Well, guess what? Your body turns on, the energy turns on, the vital force turns on, and now your body's regulating what it's supposed to be. And yeah, we could call it healing, but it's really just the normalcy coming back to the body. And then the absence of that energy, right, which then became the disease, that goes away because your body starts regulating it the way it's supposed to. So, I mean, in the end, it makes so much sense. So, like they say, there's that example, like cold itself isn't an entity, or darkness itself isn't really an entity. It's the lack of light. So disease is the lack of divinity, the lack of energy, the lack of vital force. So if you reconnect that to the body, and the body's meant to run, right, and regulate and heal, and you're reconnecting that vital force and energy to the body, and the body starts to regulate and run like it's supposed to, we're all like amazed, like, oh, there's some kind of miracle. But the party is like, well, that's what's supposed to happen anyway. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing is like, and this, Joe, like when you're out talking in public, why it's that conviction that knows if we correct the spine and you restore the energy, your body is going to get into a healing state. Whatever you have that needs life force energy to
Right.
heal,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
going to heal.
Yes.
And when you stop questioning that
Yes.
and you stop doubting yourself,
Yes.
that's not your responsibility.
Yes.
Your responsibility is to know how to fix the spine, move the freaking bone,
Right.
change the curve, put them in traction, lay them on a dental roll, whatever you do to change the curves, because it's not a bone on nerve. I mean, there can be, but it's more common curve and cord, right?
Yes.
It's not the curve, it's the cord, right?
Yes.
That's like the one of the mantras of Chiro Mafia, right?
Right.
And that's the Back to Health book that I wrote. Has, that book talks about the principle. It talks about the physical world we're living. It has medical research where MDs are proving the relationship between spinal structure, stress on the cord, and disease. It's like they know more than most chiropractors. It's like, are we going to allow a medical doctor to know more than we do, more than we're teaching about chiropractic? You know, so that's the thing, is like, stop doubting the principle.
I think it comes from, you know, and again, I get it, and it's not judgment. There's so much of a need, and I think this is true for many people, right? You see it on Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and all that, that need of recognition and validation and acceptance. And I think there's this deep needed experience that so many people need. So here you come out as a chiropractor, and something you love, you study your ass off, you put yourself in debt to become a chiropractor, and then you get out thinking, hey, I got into this thing to help and heal and do these great things. And, you know, so many people aren't, if you will, it's better than it was, but, you know, they're not being accepted, or they're like, oh, you're not one of those kinds, or whatever. So we give up our principle, we give up what we love in an effort to be accepted on the outside. And then when we're accepted outside, okay, now all of a sudden we look at what we've done to the profession, we've bastardized the principle and bastardized the profession, because we've lost those principles, or our guiding principles. And now all of a sudden, you know, you're got, hey, let's do surgery, let's do drugs, let's do this, let's do that. I'm not negating the validity of any of those things, but that's not what we do as chiropractors. Like, you don't go to Seminole to be like a priest and then try to convert everyone into, you know, Buddhism. You know what I mean? I mean, you know, I never understood that. You go to chiropractic to be a chiropractor, and then you come out, you know, and then you're like trying to change the whole outside profession, which seemed to be operating pretty well, just fine. So, and then, you know, and I know part of that's the school, and that's a different topic, and schools are teaching the wrong things. But at some point, I mean, okay, mom beat me up, dad, maybe I got sexually abused, whatever. I'm not negating the validity of that or the pain of that, but at some point you got to stand up in your life and go, you know what, I'm not a victim anymore. Okay, you know, I got to fucking make a stand and stand up for what's right, and do the right thing, and say the right thing, and work the right thing. And if you got a bunch of people are coming in sick, and they've already done all the drugs, and they've already done all the surgery, like, you know, at some point, doesn't a neuron fire off in your brain and go, you know, maybe let's reconnect them a little bit? You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, if you came in and you had a heart attack, your first thought would be like, you have an artery plugged, not allowing oxygen and nutrients to go through that, and the heart's not getting oxygen, and it's having an attack. Like, why does it the same thing? Like, when I look at somebody diseased, I'm like, okay, you have a canal, in this case, not an artery, a spinal cord canal that's being blocked, not allowing the expression of, not in this case, oxygen, but life or vital force or energy, communication, messages, signaling to the body, allowing it to regulate like it's supposed to. So that, to me, just is so inherently natural to think that way, that my thought is, let's get you checked. Let's just get you down and adjust you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you mentioned about, you know, what have we been through our childhood, and what are my parents, and my dad beat me, and and you get all that. And so we bring our self-esteem into it. And that's the part about working for God.
Yeah.
Is like, did I have self-esteem issues? Absolutely. I mean, did we come out of school convicted? Well, I was convicted to the principle, but did I want to be liked at first? Absolutely.
Sure. Absolutely.
Did I first think I was in the customer service business? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But when you want to empower people for lifestyle, you're in the self-empowerment business. I was listening to Grant Cardone. I'm listening to the 10X Growth book. And he said, if you think you're in the customer service business, you will never reach your goals.
Right.
He goes, your customer service is the service you provide. The best customer service that you can provide is to have a patient come in, communicate in a way they understand this chiropractic lifestyle, and have them live that lifestyle with their family for decades to come and generations to come.
Right. Exactly.
That's great customer service. Anything less than that is not great customer service.
Right.
And so I knew when
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Fred.
Well, when I walked in the clinic, at least I could put myself and all my self-esteem problems at that time aside, because now I'm working for God. When I'm in the clinic, I'm working for God.
I look at it like, when you walk in and you're sick and busted up, like, I can't meet them where they are and stay there, because that's the logic and thinking and behavior and habits and patterns that got them sick. Like, absolutely. Obviously I got to take them somewhere else in an effort to make them well. Because if I just give them what they want, which is they're making decisions on their health based upon what they know and believe. Well, if you know and believe the wrong thing, or no one's led you to understand something bigger, then you're just going to keep following that same habit, those same principles, right? So you have to lead them somewhere else. So my job is always, I'm there to lead you somewhere else. I'm going to listen, I'm a healthcare leader. Fred, come on with me. I'm going to take you on a journey. Here's how it works. Have you ever thought about it this way? What's going on there? Wow, that makes a lot of sense, Doc. Great. So that's what we need to do. And once I get you well, what do we need to do? You don't stop brushing your teeth after I fill the cavity, right? No, right? You don't stop eating good when you get down to the right weight. You don't stop going to the gym when you get to the right physical status, right? No, what do you need to do? You need to stay after it in order to sustain and maintain that, as well as further perpetuate that. Exactly. So this is just the beginning of a relationship, not the end. Womb to the tomb, you know?
Absolutely.
That's the logic. Like when you think like that, it just makes so much sense. They're not all going to get it. I always say they never get it. Nobody ever gets it. But if I don't start with that level of conviction, no one's going to get it. If I start with that level of conviction and I can convert 1 out of 10 people to follow that mindset, that belief, you know what? 1 out of 10 after a while, you get better at it. 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 5 out of 10. But if you keep doing it over a period of a few years, that's how you grow a practice. So I don't need 30 new ones a week. I don't need 30 new ones a month. I could have no new ones, you know, in a month and still run a really busy practice, because those people who are coming in are lifers. And it's a lot more fun to adjust well people than it is sick. I mean, isn't it? Like when somebody comes in, hold on, doc, don't touch me. Before you touch me, you know, let me unload 37 symptoms. Or like Sarah, she walks in on the table, you give her one thrust, she jumps up. Oh my God, that was great. Hey, I'll see you Wednesday. And, you know, because they get the principle, they get the value, they get what you do, you get what you do, they sense it, and that's how you change the world. I always tell people, you know, listen, you don't need to convert everyone. Jesus converted 12, and one of them stabbed him in the back. You know what I mean? So really, you need 11 really good disciples, and you can change the world, man.
Yeah, well, numerology 11 is spiritual teacher. But you know, on that note, you know, you're going to have, I would say it's also the spiritual conviction of why you confront people. You know, I was thinking, you know, you expect miracles, and you mentioned Jesus, and I would think, so who had the biggest chiropractic practice in the world, hands-on healing, right? And that was Jesus. Yeah. How could he walk into a town, and by the time he'd walk in with his little entourage, and by the time he walked through a town, he had hundreds and thousands thronging, just wanting to touch him? How could he do that? Well, through his presence and through his message, first of all, right? And I thought, okay, I want to be like that. That's what I want. And then it hit me. It's like, you know, if I want people to show up to be healed, I have to be a healer. I have to talk and have the presence of a healer. And then people will show up to be healed. Right. The universe will provide them. So that's what one thing I always say is your spirit builds your practice, systems handle the flow.
Exactly right.
And so
right. Protocols and procedures are important when you're busy. Yeah.
Oh my God, you have to be organized, right? And so this is where, like another thing, I was on a coaching call, and well, you know, it's a pretty good volume practice in the 600s a week, right? And well, you know, we keep getting hung up on the re-exams, multiple doctor office. And I'm like, here's the problem, man. You can't put a re-exam at a peak time. Not because you can't do it or another doctor can't do it. You just broke the energy of you being in the zone.
Right.
And high volume guys, you know, they get in that zone where you're not thinking. It's totally intuitive.
Right.
God's moving through you, man. Your energy is so big right then that whatever adjustment you give in that vibration, I don't care what it is, it's on its way out. It's going to be healed. And that's where your scheduling has a lot to do that. You want to double your practice, you got to double how many people you see in your peak time.
Right.
And when you get in that zone, you don't ever want to get out of it.
Correct.
So don't interrupt those peak times. Don't interrupt your own state.
Yeah, you ain't gonna give Michael Jordan a cell phone call in the middle of a fucking game because you can take him out of the zone, right? I mean, it's the same idea. Tiger Woods in the middle of golf course and the Masters coming down the 18th, you're not going to hate Tiger really quick for a second. You know, somebody's calling or here, let me share a problem. Do those problems exist? Yeah. Does that phone call need to be fielded? Of course, but not during prime time. Like
No.
prime time, man. You know,
Yeah,
just
on those
adjust.
peak hours, man, don't schedule it. You see, your goal is to see as many people as you can in that
Right.
peak time, and
Right.
that's how you grow your
Right. The
state.
one of the lines we always have in practice, Fred, in car passion is, you know, or I shouldn't say lines, but the question is like, how do you make money? You know, you adjust. How do you help people? You adjust. How do you heal people? You adjust. Right. So that's it. So anything outside of that, what do you get paid for? Adjusting. Anything outside of that sphere is costing you time, money, energy. It's costing you life. It's costing you purpose. So you got to set up your practice as much as possible to where, listen, I walk in, I do my little thing to get myself in my headspace and I adjust. And then when the 6 o'clock hits, I'm done and I leave. Like that's it. Everybody else takes care of everything else. I'm adjusted. You know what I mean? The brain surgeon isn't doing the paperwork. You know what I mean? He or she's doing the brain surgery. So
They're
you're,
not
you know,
billing
you're the chiropractor, you're
insurance.
the adjustments. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So anyway, I mean, this talk can go on a long time. I know we have
Yeah.
so many stories,
Yeah.
so many really impactful stories. And you know, man, when you start working for God, the healing miracles that you see, your patients will feel it, and that's when they bring people.
Yeah.
You know, it's like on the mission trips or you know, or with Jesus, what would people do? They would bring people to him to be healed.
Yes. Yes.
Your patients will do that when you get in that healing consciousness.
Yes. Yes.
You're not
Yeah.
just fixing a translation, man. You're freeing up energy in the spinal cord and in the whole in your whole clinic and in the whole world. So
Yeah, I
so you
remember
got your
listening to Jim Sigafus, and he was talking, you know, during those years where we've all had those years where you're fully connected and everything is, you know, right where it needs to be, and you know, you're in the right place and it's the right time. And I remember him telling us that, you know, and then when he went back into practice years later, still was phenomenal, and he still, you know, did what he did, but he could never, at least at that point, he could never get that level of connection, you know, for multiple reasons. But I remember being there myself, you know, where just everything was connected, and you were, you know, your purpose, your mission, everything's so clear. Life changes, obviously, but man, for those years when it was, you know, dialed in, and I know you had the same experience, Fred, like, yeah, I mean, you're just walking around as a healer, touching people, healing people, changing lives on a regular basis. They almost didn't even know or need to know. They just came in, like you said, wanted to be there, wanted to get adjusted, see you on Wednesday, like no issue, no worry, no
no
pushback,
effort,
no nothing.
no,
Yeah.
they're not complaining about
Yes.
anything. They're
Yes.
just grateful to come in
Yes.
and get their
Yes.
body healed
Great
and
word.
filled with
Yes.
energy again. They
Yes.
walk in grateful. They don't need, right,
Yes.
there's no complaining.
Yes.
There's no, you know, none of that stuff.
That's a
So, but
great
you,
point. They walk in grateful. Walk in grateful before you even see them. They walk in grateful. That's
absolutely,
exactly right. You
you got to
nailed
create
it.
that
That's
environment.
exactly
And
right.
one thing,
Yeah.
yeah, one thing I do know, you got your boot camp coming up. You show docs, one, how to create the environment spiritually, two, how to create that in your team, three, how to even have that energy in the air, and
Yeah.
then how to have the systems that run it so smoothly that it grows on its own. We
Yes.
also do that in our boot camps. I mean, we got a whole online system. It's 7 figures, secrets to the 7 figure lifestyle practice. How do you, it's not about the money, but if you're making seven figures, 1 million a year just on your wellness, your monthly payments of
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
wellness, you
Yeah.
know, now, and what's that mean? You're making impact with generations. So it's not
Absolutely.
about the money, it's about the purpose. I don't know
Yeah.
anybody that's going to hate the money, but it's about the purpose.
Yeah. And the money is a metric. It's a reflection of whether or not you're in line with your purpose. So
Oh,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Your money
So
comes.
anyway, man, you got your thing this weekend.
Yeah.
Awesome. And we have our day one, day two, how to get people, the new patient on day one to say, this is my health care for my family.
Yeah.
So we're going to show you how to do that and then how to keep them for years.
We got a
So,
couple of good guests coming up. We got Clint Steele, who's coming up next week or
yep.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yep.
Yeah, and then 2 weeks after that, we've got Dr. Pam Jarbo. I'm really excited about. She's a dear friend of mine, and she's fantastic. And she's got some Italian in her veins, so we got some good stories to share on that call too, I'm sure.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. Please subscribe, please share. And yeah, send these to your chiropractic friends and colleagues, man. Just
Absolutely.
let them know about this. I mean, we do
Yes.
this to get the principal out there to help you
Yes.
with communication. I mean, we've already had testimonies, people saying, wow, great one-liners. I use them in practice, man. Got to prepay. These people are
Yeah.
bringing their families now. We get testimonials of that all the time. So
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's an honor
yeah.
for sure.
All right. Love you guys. See you here. in a
Ciao,
couple
ci
weeks.
vediamo. Ciao, ciao. See you
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. Yeah.